Trump targets immigration as J-Lo to join Harris in Nevada. Live reporting. Edited by Johanna Chisholm and Jude Sheeran in Washington, D.C. On Rogan podcast, Vance says he loaded his guns after attempt on Trump's life. Donald Trump's running mate JD Vance appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast on Thursday, in a wide-ranging, 3-hour interview where he suggested that he and Trump can win the normal gay guy vote, a comment that has been criticized by some members of the LGBT community on social media. The two discussed transgender medical treatments, as well as abortion, the COVID vaccine, Muslim Americans and Vance's Netflix picks. Vance argued at one point that affluent parents were embracing their children's transgender or non-binary identities as a way to reject your white privilege. One way that those people can participate in the DEI bureaucracy in this country is to be trans, Vance said, referring to diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Vance also criticized the COVID-19 vaccine, despite receiving one himself. "The sickest that I've been in the last 15 years, by far, was when I took the vaccine," he said. On Trump's assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, Vance said he went into fight-or-flight mode after hearing Trump was targeted. "We were at a mini-golf place in Cincinnati, Ohio," Vance said. He added that he had to gather his kids, throw them in the car, go home and load all my guns, and basically stand like a sentry at our front door. Trump himself appeared on Rogan's podcast in a 3-hour episode that aired 5 days ago. Rogan, whose podcast has over 18 million subscribers on YouTube, said he had invited Kamala Harris on his show as well, but added he had rejected terms set out by her campaign, including a 1-hour limit on the interview. Trump touts no tax on tips proposal, then pivots to windows. Trump is on the part of his stump speech where he reasserts his pledge to end taxes on tips and other tax cuts. Harris has also proposed ending taxes on workers' tips. Neither candidate has delved into the details of how such a plan would work, and the economic impacts are unclear. After mentioning a brief list of tax proposals, Trump talks about windows in buildings. He appears to be claiming that left-wing Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez doesn't want any more windows on apartments. Trump seems to be referring to environmental proposals known as the Green New Deal, which was backed by Ocasio-Cortez and other Democrats. They billed it as a blueprint to tackle climate change and income inequality. "They don't want windows. They don't want cows, they don't want anything," Trump says. "I've always been known for having the biggest windows," Trump says of his career as a real estate developer. Trump targets immigration in Nevada while attacking Harris's intelligence. At his rally in Henderson, Nevada, Donald Trump begins his address by once again attacking his opponent's intelligence, calling her a liar. "Hillary was a lot smarter," Trump says of his 2016 presidential opponent, Hillary Clinton. Trump has repeatedly questioned Harris's intelligence on the campaign trail. He has previously said there is definitely something missing and told crowds, "She's a stupid person." Trump then quickly turns to the hot-button issue of immigration. He has made the promise of the mass deportation of people who do not have legal permission to be in the U.S. a central part of his campaign, and in a state like Nevada, immigration is a top issue. "We're an occupied country," Trump says as he again promises the largest deportation program in U.S. history. Why are Harris and Trump campaigning in Nevada, one of the key swing states? In Nevada, we're about to hear from Donald Trump, who's speaking at a rally in Henderson, while a bit earlier today, we heard from Kamala Harris in Reno. The state is one of 7 swing states that will be crucial in determining the outcome of the presidential election. With a population of 3.2 million, Nevada holds 6 of the 538 electoral college votes. Around a third of likely voters consider themselves independent, meaning they aren't registered with either the Republican or Democratic parties. Inflation and housing prices feature prominently among voters' concerns here, and the state has the highest level of unemployment in the U.S., at around 5.5%. Watches on election night include whether Latino turnout is high and the results in the state's 2 most populous counties, Clark and Washoe. In pictures, a look at the day so far. The candidates have been crisscrossing the country today, with rallies still planned to take place in 2 of the 7 key swing states, Nevada and Arizona. Here's a look at photos from earlier today, which show eager crowds gathering in support of both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. The fight over undated ballots in Pennsylvania heads to state's highest court. Republicans are asking the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to enforce a mandate that would throw out mail-in ballots that are not dated correctly. The mandate, which requires voters to handwrite the date on which they filled out their ballot, was ruled unconstitutional by a Pennsylvania appeals court on Wednesday in a case involving a few dozen ballots that were cast in September in a special state election. But it was unclear from the ruling what impact this would have on how ballots are counted on Tuesday's election day. The dispute over the rule began after voting rights advocates filed several lawsuits against it, including a case pending at the U.S. Supreme Court, though that federal case will not be resolved in time for the election. In the meantime, Pennsylvania Republicans and the Republican National Committee, RNC, have fought to keep the rule in place. In a court filing on Thursday to the state's highest court, they argued that the appeals court ruling violates a directive by Pennsylvania's Supreme Court that no substantial alteration to existing laws and procedures be made before the ongoing election. They add it has also caused confusion around the issue, and could lead some election boards to try to count the ballots in question. The filing asks the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to stay the lower court's ruling while all appeals on the matter are heard. LeBron James says the choice is clear to me as he endorses Harris. NBA star LeBron James has endorsed Kamala Harris, writing on his personal X account that, "The choice is clear to me." The Akron, Ohio native went on to say that he was motivated by his family when he decided to back the Democratic candidate. "What are we even talking about here? When I think about my kids and my family and how they will grow up, the choice is clear to me," he wrote, before adding, "Vote Kamala Harris." James joins a flurry of celebrities in recent weeks to throw their support behind Harris. Beyoncé and Bruce Springsteen both appeared alongside the vice president at campaign events earlier this month, while Arnold Schwarzenegger, the former Republican governor of California, endorsed her on X this week. Elon Musk, Kanye West and Buzz Aldrin, the second man to step foot on the moon, have all endorsed Trump. A guide to Arizona, one of the key swing states. We've just finished hearing from Kamala Harris in Phoenix, Arizona, which is the same city where Republican candidate Donald Trump will be addressing supporters later this evening. The state, which has a population of 7.4 million people, holds 11 of the 538 electoral college votes. Arizona is the only swing state along the U.S.-Mexico border, where about 1 in 4 voters are Latino. It also found itself at the heart of the 2020 election misinformation claims. Economy, immigration and abortion are among the key issues for voters here. On election night, keep an eye out for the winner of Maricopa County, home to 59% of the state's registered voters. A quick guide to swing state Arizona. Shortly before Harris finished speaking in Phoenix, everyone was on their feet here as the vice president urged the crowd to vote, noting the importance of the state in the presidential election. It's a swing state with 11 electoral college votes. She went on to call the 2024 presidential election one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and urged people to fight and turn the page on Trump and his policies. "We're done with that," she said, before emphasizing a message of unity. "It is time for a new generation of leadership in America," she said, adding that the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. Trump campaign sues CBS over Harris interview, reports. Moving away from the campaign trail for a moment, we can now bring you an update from Donald Trump. The former president is reportedly suing CBS, the BBC's U.S. partner, over an interview the news outlet conducted with his rival Kamala Harris, which aired earlier this month. The lawsuit alleges that the interview was doctored and demands $10 billion, £7.7 billion, in damages, Fox News reports. The U.S. outlet reports that Trump attorneys filed the suit over what they allege is CBS partisan and unlawful acts of election and voter interference through malicious, deceptive, and substantial news distortion calculated to confuse, deceive, and mislead the public. The suit further alleges that CBS edited an answer by Harris to avoid a word salad response to interviewer Bill Whitaker's question on Israel. The network has denied the allegations raised by Trump. In Arizona, Harris dismisses Trump as unstable, obsessed with revenge. Kamala Harris is speaking to supporters in Phoenix, Arizona, in an effort to get out the vote in a key battleground state with 5 days left before Election Day. In this election, we have an opportunity to turn the page on a decade of Donald Trump trying to keep us divided and afraid of each other, says Harris, as the crowd boos in response. That is not who we are, she says, billing herself as part of a new generation of leadership in America. She later emphasizes her campaign messaging on Trump, calling him unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance and out for unchecked power. In less than 90 days, it'll be either him or me in the Oval Office, she says, adding that Trump would walk in with an enemies list, while she would walk in with a to-do list. She also repeats her promise of bringing down the cost of living for middle-class Americans, delivering healthcare for seniors and tackling price gouging on groceries. At one point, Harris is interrupted by a protester in the crowd. She responds by saying, "Let's talk for a minute about Gaza. We all want this war to end and get the hostages out," vowing to work on it full-time if she is elected as president. Harris then hits out at Trump's policies on reproductive rights, saying that he plans to implement a nationwide abortion ban and will force states to monitor women's pregnancies. For context, Trump has struggled to find a consistent message on abortion. The 3 judges he appointed to the Supreme Court while president were pivotal in overturning the nationalized right to an abortion, a 1973 ruling known as Roe v. Wade. Senate candidate Ruben Gallego opens Harris's Phoenix rally. Before we hear from Harris here in Phoenix, Rep. Ruben Gallego is taking the stage. He is running for a U.S. Senate seat that could determine which party controls the upper chamber of Congress. His opponent is Kari Lake, a Republican and one of the leading voices questioning election integrity in the state after Trump lost here in 2020. Gallego tells the crowd he'd be the first Latino senator for Arizona, where 1 in 4 voters are Latino. He says he wants others to have the same opportunities he's had in the U.S. and says it's time to get the job done. Harris about to speak in Arizona. We're soon to hear from Kamala Harris in Arizona, one of the 7 key swing states. When we heard from her earlier in the day, she branded comments Trump made yesterday about protecting women very offensive. Trump told a rally he would protect women whether they like it or not. Harris rally turns into two-stepping party ahead of speech. The Harris rally has turned into a bit of a party here in Phoenix as Los Tigres del Norte takes the stage with a whole accompaniment of instruments. The popular Mexican band has people screaming their lyrics and dancing in the stands of the Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater. Some by the stage are two-stepping and tossing their cowboy hats in the air. Many are waving Harris fans in the air. The band is mostly speaking in Spanish to the crowd and urged them to vote. At one point, they said in English, "I don't want to go back to Mexico," an apparent toss to one of the biggest issues in this border state, immigration. 5 key takeaways from Trump's speech in New Mexico. We've just been hearing from Donald Trump, who's been delivering a speech in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Here's a rundown of what he said. The Republican candidate said he would launch the largest deportation program in American history and will end sanctuary cities, places which have laws and policies to aid undocumented immigrants. Trump said he would save the typical household $7,000 in the first year alone, adding that he would end the inflation nightmare and create a record jobs boom. Also on the economy, he said he would create a new cabinet position for a senior member of his administration, who will solely focus on doing everything in the federal government's power to bring down the cost of living. Trump said he would crush violent crime and give America's police the support, protection, resources, and respect that they so dearly deserve. Turning to the subject of war, he said he would stop the chaos in the Middle East and end the war in Ukraine, but he did not say how he would do this. Harris arrives in Phoenix, before heading to Las Vegas. Vice President Kamala Harris has arrived in Phoenix in the swing state of Arizona for a campaign event. She will be joined on stage by Latin band Los Tigres del Norte. In a few hours the Democratic candidate will go on to a major event in Las Vegas, Nevada. Both Arizona and Nevada have large Hispanic populations, 31% and 30% respectively. Harris is for everyone, first-time voter says. The line to see Harris today in Phoenix wraps around the Talking Stick Amphitheater. I keep running into voters who say abortion is the key issue for them this election cycle. I ran into Dallas Salas, a student at Arizona State University and a first-time voter. The 19-year-old is studying healthcare in school and studying to become a doctor. He said he was fearful seeing the overturning of Roe v. Wade, a decision which rescinded U.S. women's right to abortion, and the ripple effects it has had. This is a health issue, he tells me. Harris is for everyone, not just herself. JD Vance courts Gen Z voters in key battleground state. Earlier, Trump's running mate JD Vance spoke in North Carolina with conservative commentator Charlie Kirk at a town hall targeting Gen Z voters. The Trump-Vance campaign has really amplified their efforts to appeal to younger voters, particularly young males, this election cycle, to tip the scales in their favor in what is predicted to be an incredibly tight race. Vance talked about immigration under the Biden-Harris administration and then blends the discussion with the economy. He says homes are unaffordable, blaming it on the current administration's regulatory policies, which he says is slowing development and supply. If Donald Trump is president, we will build far more homes than we could if Kamala Harris were president, he says. He adds, it's important to recognize that no matter how many homes you build, if you allow an unlimited wave of illegal immigrants, those people are going to end up owning the houses. How dare you say that, Harris supporter responds to Puerto Rico jibe at Trump rally. In the sea of Harris supporters here, Priscilla Velasquez can probably be spotted a mile away. She's donning a large satin Puerto Rico flag. You've got to represent, she tells me. The 20-year Navy veteran says she's mad as hell over the remarks at a recent Trump rally where a comedian called the U.S. territory a floating island of garbage. It's a political rally, not a comedy show. How dare you say that, she says. The brother and sister on opposite sides of the political divide. You join me at the latest stop on Newsbeat's Swing States tour, traveling through some of the U.S. states that could decide the election winner. Today, it's the turn of North Carolina. Waiting in line to see country singer Jelly Roll, I meet Rusty and Brittany, a brother and sister who tell me they're completely different when it comes to their politics. Brittany? She's Kamala all the way, she says. Her brother meanwhile says he's Republican, hardcore. Brittany's focused on women's rights, a key battleground in this election. I think a woman has a right to choose what she does with her body, she says. 10,000%. North Carolina changed its laws on abortion after the national right to have one was scrapped in 2022. Speaking to other voters here, many aren't sure where they stand on the abortion issue, a lot aren't even comfortable to talk to me about it. For Rusty, it's one policy area where, despite their differences, he's more aligned with his sister. I am Republican, but there are some things with both sides I do agree with, he says. Former First Lady and presidential nominee in the 2016 election Hillary Clinton will be knocking on doors with canvassers in Tampa, Florida on Saturday, the Harris-Walz campaign has confirmed. The appearance will be her first on the campaign trail in support of Harris this election. Lately, Florida has been a Republican stronghold. But Hillary Clinton barely lost the state to Trump by 1.2% in 2016. Trump nearly doubled that lead in 2020 when he beat Joe Biden in the state by just over 3 percentage points. Trump supporters gather across the U.S. for rallies, in pictures. Donald Trump is in Albuquerque, New Mexico for his first appearance of the day, as a large audience has formed, waiting to hear what he has to say. Some are even embracing the Halloween spirit.